Here we have our manifold. This particular heat exchanger, one of the complaints, it was shooting out scale. You'll normally get a buildup. There wasn't a whole lot in the exchanger, but we do have a fair amount. Again, we'll work our way around. Nice and even. Okay, we got it out. As you can see, this one does have a lot of scale in it. Okay, we have our O-ring in here. We're going to pull this off. There's also another plate in here that this covers up the manual bypass regulator. We want to check that. We want to pull the thermal regulator out too, and we'll take a peek at that also. Okay, thermal regulator, it's definitely got some scale behind it too. I'll show you how to test this in a little bit. Now we're going to take and just get everything cleaned out. Let's pull out our little diverter plate and we can check the manual spring bypass in here. One's being a little bit stubborn. I'm just going to pop it and pound it from the back side. Okay, here she comes. We flip that. We don't even have to pull the temp sensor to get this out, but something I do like to check while I'm into these is to check our manual bypass flow valve. It just slides out while you're down in here. Normally what happens when these things go is this little end piece breaks, the whole spring just pops off. See, this one still looks to be in good shape. Bypass back in. We're going to go ahead. We have a couple slots that line up on this that tell you which direction. We've got little pins and slots here. We've got another one here. So we just slide this underneath the temp sensor. This goes in. And this is what's going to align this diverter plate in here up with the inside. So we just need to get a new O-ring. Which I happen to have right here. You can put the O-ring behind here. It is a little bit tough. There's an area in here that to get this O-ring underneath, it's not one of the easiest to get this plate back on and get this back together. I'll normally just take it, hit it with a rubber mallet to get it as far as I can get it. And then when we do the tightening, back onto the plate of the heat exchanger, that'll finish it off. Next thing we're going to do is check the thermal regulator. We're just going to get some hot water. These things are set at 120 degrees. I'm microwaving some water right now, and we'll just take and dip it in that. Once you know the water's over 120, you should see this thermal regulator open up, and you'll see the whole spring, everything open on this. My water's done. You can take, if you like, a thermometer and just make sure that the water is at least 120 degrees. And holding this in there, this should start to open. It does take a few seconds before you'll see it, but I don't know if you can see that that's opened up now. And that's what it does. As you can see, that's opened up. That allows the water to flow through. Replace the tube sheet O-rings. I find a chisel works real good. Just one flat side to get them off. This also works good if you're doing tube gaskets like Lars, Raypak, the other heaters. Works real good to get the old gaskets off. And vice versa. Also works good on these Sta Rites to get these tube sheet O-rings off. Be careful. The ends of this copper can be really sharp. What I like to do, come around from the side. You don't want to be pushing in with your fingers, more around it. Keep your fingers off of the copper. The pipe. There we go. A socket, something like that, just to push these on and finish them off. Okay, now we've got our exchanger coil ready to put back in. And I'm just gonna slide it in front first. It's got the new O-rings on it. Sometimes you can even just take and pull this bottom insulating pad back a little bit and then just slide it back in after you get the coil in. It's going to fit in the hole, and then we're just going to take and push it up to where you just want to check your bottom insulating pad and see to it that it's pretty much well centered up around the tubes. Stainless steel bolt that's going to be going into a cast iron plate. I like to put just a little bit of grease on the threads. This is like a high temperature brake grease. These things will rust up in here. As you see, this combustion chamber is a nasty environment, and this is why having a sealed combustion chamber like this, especially that's made out of stainless steel, seems to put up with the abuse pretty good. The type heater nowadays, pushing all of this condensation we're getting on these units as the efficiency has gone up. What's happened is it's this acid rain, this scale that falls off of these coils when it's running and the water's cold, that just creates so much damage to all the igniters and the burners down below. The glow plugs, the hot surface igniters, the IID pilots, the ceramics on them. This is why a heater like this that has a glow plug that sits above the tubes, that is not subject to any of these condensation problems, to me is a better choice to have. Okay, manifold, what we do is just start. All you want to do is get some of the bolts started. We're not looking at torquing up anything right away. We're just looking at getting them all in and started. Don't use an impact wrench on these, and you're going to want to even go light with an air ratchet, because if you're replacing the O-rings in the manifold and there's some space in here, it's just going to take a series of times that you're going to have to start to make this tighten up. But first we'll just come across, and I like going, I'll start at the bottom, just get it started, and then I'll skip them. Go to the next side, and then I'll skip another one. Skip another one. Just as they start keeping these, skip one, go down, the one you missed on the other side. Skip down and across. Okay, there we have it. Now we're ready to go ahead and install. We want to make sure the bottom insulating pad is sitting okay. That's fine. There is a little disc here that goes in that the flame holder sits on. We want to make sure that that's centered up. Put back on our top insulating. Sometimes these things don't get real good seal right up here in the front. This one's got a little break on it, the pad. Sometimes I'll just take a little bit of extra RTV, put it on here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You use this or a high temperature RTV. We're just going to seal up this one area. Might just be a little bit questionable. We'll put a little bit of extra RTV in here. We want good sealing between these tubes. We want all this heat from this burner is coming down here from the inside. We want everything coming through the coil tubes, nothing coming through these insulating blocks. Now I just want to check the perimeter of the combustion chamber just to make sure and see if there's any place that I dented it when I took it apart. Any extra hanging pieces of RTV just to clean off. If it is dented up, you just take some pliers and push it back. I think both ends of this, yeah, this one came off pretty easy. We really didn't do much anything. So same thing, now we're going to take the edge of the combustion chamber. We're going to run RTV, a bead of it, all the way around. There is one small insulating pad up here. It looks okay, the flame holder looks okay. Hot surface igniter goes okay. Okay, this is where we want to get this straight up and down. and get this flame holder going in where it's supposed to go, and everything else will just start to line up. You can line up your holes with your brackets to where you get everything to where it's set and looking good, and then we're just going to press down. Get everything back in together. Make sure we got no wires hanging out. Okay, let's put in our bolts. This just works best straight socket on a. Not too tight. Just see as it's coming down, and what'll happen is you'll start to see that RTV squishing out. If you have some spots where you don't see it squishing out, you can take and just rub a little bit more over the top. So let's go ahead. Let's get our wires hooked back up, and as you can see the harness, it's pretty easy to distinguish with a shorter set of wires. This is really nice because you don't have to mark anything, and for people that don't know which ones go to which, these colors on here don't matter. Or like I say, there's two purples here for the pressure switch. They're not polarized or anything, or one doesn't have to go to one terminal. Any of these sensors, it doesn't matter. These two reds that are going to, I don't know, either this is the temp sensor, or this is probably the AGS sensor. They're just going to go down, go on, get our other one. It's going to go on. This side again, it's nice because everything's harnessed right to length. Two brown wires, this is the thermistor, this is the temp sensor here. Two orange wires in. Okay, now let's spin around. Put our ground wire back on. Connect it back up where we reconnected here, or disconnected. If you can see this one. Okay. Channel these wires here back in to the electrical junction box. And there you have it. Complete, ready to put back in, fire up, see if it got lower exhaust temperature on it.